Hello and welcome to livealittlehigher.com. Today we continue with our book, The Hasidic Approach to Joy by Rabbi Shlomo Majewski, in learning how to live a joyous life, learning to live with simcha in ourselves. So last week we were speaking about how important it is to let go. If we are not able to let go of whatever is holding us back, then we will never be able to be happy. And this week, the chapter 11 is talking about simcha, a dynamic of empowerment. What empowers us to be able to live joyously? And he says here that joy is important not only as an antithesis to depression, but it's also a fundamental element of our divine service to Hashem. So it's not only for us to live good and feel good, but also it is an important component in our service to God. The biggest mitzvah, the biggest mitzvah is serving God with joy. That's the biggest mitzvah you can have. More than living a Shomer Shabbat life, a kosher life. If a person, whatever he does for God, doesn't do it joyously, with joy and happiness to serve Him, then he's not really fulfilling the purpose for which he was created. So it says here that in Psalm 100, says, serve God with joy, come before Him in celebration. And celebration being a medium that allows us to come before God and feel His presence. That's why Jewish life gives a lot of emphasis to being joyful. Like if you look at it from the perspective of the holidays, like we just left Purim, and Purim is all about joy and getting dressed and drinking and eating and being with people and loosening up a little bit, and then we come to Pesach, and also it's the whole thing of the Seder and how we make it beautiful and how we feel fulfilled and happy to be able to keep those 8 days. And then we go holiday by holiday and we see how each one of them has a component of joy in them. Rejoicing in Shabbat, rejoicing in the holidays. It says, the Rambam, that to be a prophet in the times of the prophet, you had to be a very wise man or woman, and you have to be very righteous. But if you didn't have joy, there was no way prophecy would get to you. It was impossible. And we see in the stories of our patriarchs, let's say Jacob, when he was ready to pass away, he was blessing his children, and he saw the end of days and he wanted to relate it to them. And at that moment he became very sad, and the prophecy went away from him. He couldn't say it to them. So joy is a very important attribute in our lives, and we have to really work very hard to be always besimcha. And besimcha means not that everything is perfect and we're smiling and we're laughing all day. Besimcha it means that we understand our place in this world and our connection to Hashem. When we appreciate how important it is to be connected, then no matter what happens, we're always going to feel joyful inside. So there's a very beautiful story here that it's told by Rabbi Levi Yitzhak of Berdichev, and he was telling how once before Yom Kippur, a Jewish innkeeper living in Berdichev was arrested by his landowner. He used to have an inn, and he had to pay the rent to this landowner, and he hadn't paid him for a while, not because he was not paying him, because he didn't want to pay him, but he couldn't pay him, he didn't have the money. And the landlord put him in a dungeon with all his family, and he said, like, if you don't pay me, you're doomed. You're gonna stay in this dungeon till the day you die. So there was a Jew, a very simple Jew, and this Jew took it upon himself to raise the money to bring these people, this family, out of the dungeon, because it's a very important mitzvah. It's called the redemption of the captives, Pidyon Shevuim, to release people who are captive. And so he took it upon himself to help this family get out of the dungeon. So it was a few hours before Yom Kippur. It's a very auspicious day for people to give it tzedakah. So he went to the people of the town, and people gave, but he only was able to raise 50 rubles, which in those days, he owed 300 rubles. It was a crazy amount of money. And the people gave what they could. It's not that they couldn't give, they didn't want to give more. It's just that they couldn't give more. And he realized, like, with 50 rubles, this is it. I'm not going to be able to take these people out of the dungeon. So he decided that he was going to go to the other side of the town where free-thinking Jews lived, and they were more wealthy. They were wealthier than the Jews of that part of the town. And so he went there, and he came to a bar where they gambled, and he went in there, and there was a lot of Jewish people, believe it or not, right before Yom Kippur. They were gambling. So he thought, like, what an auspicious time to come and, like, stir their souls a little bit. And he came up, and he got on a table. He spoke, "My brothers, I need your help. There's this family, and they're in a dungeon. They couldn't pay their rent to their landlord. I need to raise 250 rubles, please, from the kindness of your heart. Yom Kippur is coming, please. If you could please allow me and give me some of your money so I could bring these people out of the dungeon, you're going to be rewarded immensely because it's a very big mitzvah." But these people were like, they didn't get it. So one of the people in the table, they said, "Okay, we'll give you 100 rubles, but first you have to drink. You have to drink," and it's called the Finif Uninesikar, which is a vodka which has 95% of alcohol in it. So you can imagine how toxic this is. And you have to take a shot of this glass, and if you drink this Finif Uninesikar, we will give you 100 rubles. So he was thinking, "Oh, how am I going to drink this? I'm going to get drunk, and Yom Kippur is coming, and I'm going to get to shul, and I'm not going to be able even to pray. But you know what? This family is very precious, and I think it's more important to help this family out of the dungeon than if I can pray." So he took the shot, and they gave him the $100. They started to applaud and laugh at him and whatever. And he was a little tipsy, so he went to the next table, and he asked them if they could give him 100 rubles. And they found it very funny what they were doing with this man, and they said, "Okay, we'll give you 100 rubles, but you also have to drink a shot here. We're not going to give it to you for free." So again, he was debating, how am I going to pray? If I take another shot, I'm going to be so drunk. At the end, he decided his family was more important. He went, he took the shot, and they gave him 100 rubles. And then he realized he needed 50 more rubles. He went to a third table. The same story goes on. And these people, again, "If you don't drink a shot, we're not going to give you we'll give you 100 rubles if you drink a shot." So he said, "Okay, I'm already drunk. Who cares? The most important thing is this family." He took the shot. And by the time they gave him 100 rubles, he couldn't even stand up on his feet. So he asked one of the Jews in that table if he could please drive him to the innkeeper, to the landlord, so he could redeem him. And so he took him, and when he got there, the innkeeper was so grateful. He couldn't believe it, how grateful he was. And he said, "Okay, but now I need to get to shul. I need to go to Kol Nidre, and I can't even walk. You have to take me there." So the innkeeper took him there. And when he got to shul, he just lied down on a bench. He couldn't even open his eyes. Everything turned around him, couldn't even move. And suddenly the people started coming into the synagogue, and they saw this drunk guy on Kol Nidre, on Yom Kippur, in the benches, and they were all like, "Psst, psst, like, this is incredible. How could he do this?" And Kol Nidre begins, and they open the Aron HaKodesh, and they start taking out the Sefer Torahs. This only happens at night twice in the year. Once is in Yom Kippur, and the other one is in Simchas Torah. Otherwise, the Torah is only taken out during the day. And when he saw that the ark was open and they were taking out the Torahs, he confused himself. He thought it was Simchas Torah and it was not Yom Kippur. He forgot it was Yom Kippur. He thought it was Simchas Torah. Simchas Torah is a holiday in which we dance with the Torah. So the month of Tishrei, we have Rosh Hashanah, then we have Yom Kippur, then we have Sukkot, and then we have Simchas Torah. That's the ladder in which this month goes. And it is the first two holidays, which is Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, are holidays in which we connect our neshamas to Hashem through awe, through fear. And then Sukkot is about joy, and Simchas Torah is the peak of the joy. So the awesomeness of those days should take us to extreme joy. And so this guy started dancing. He started dancing and singing and grabbing the Torahs and dancing around with them. and the people were like beyond themselves. They were ready to kick him out of the synagogue. And then Rabbi Levi Yitzhak of Berdichev said, no, stop. You don't understand. This guy did a very big mitzvah. He saved the whole family from dying in a dungeon. And because of what he did, his nefirat nefesh, his self-sacrifice of sacrificing himself, he bypassed the Rosh Hashanah and the Yom Kippur, and he went straight to Simchas Torah. So that's what Simcha does. What Simcha does is that it allows us to bypass the strictness of life. Because when we are able to live with joy, we don't need the strictness in our lives. We bypass it. We don't need the part of the suffering anymore, because we bypass it. We're always joyful, and that's what happened to this guy. He was so happy, he was so drunk because he saved his family, that he didn't need the awesomeness of the day of Yom Kippur. He went straight to Simchas Torah. So this story is beautiful in the way that it explains this, and it says here that it is much harder to understand that singing and dancing are spiritual, and indeed so spiritual that the rejoicing of Simchas Torah surpasses the soul-stirring prayers of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So the resolution of this difficulty depends on the fundamental concept that the essence of the Jew's connection to God is bitul. Bitul means to nullify ourselves, to become ourselves small next to God. But not only that, not only to become small, what it really means is not seeing oneself as a separate entity from Hashem, not seeing ourselves as something different from Him or separate from Him. Bitul is when we can see ourselves and we can recognize that all of existence, including oneself, is a manifestation and expression of godliness. So when we're able to see ourselves as a way in which we can reveal God in this world by our actions, every time we say a kind word, every time we do a favor to somebody, every time we give tzedakah, every time we do a mitzvah, every time we can do something that will elevate this world, we're able to reveal Hashem by our actions. And when we're doing this, then we're not separate from Him, we're one with Him. And this is the true joy. This is what really, really is a fundamental joy. It comes from really deep inside. It's not something that is external. It comes from the most profound part of ourselves. So I want to wish you a happy week, a healthy week, and a beautiful week, and live a little higher. Thank you.